hours up to 20-foot containers.
Manufacturamos baterías desde how many kilowatt hours?
So 5 kilowatt hours to 1.1 megawatt hours.
Desde 5 kilovatios hora hasta 1.2 megavatios hora.
Yeah, and everywhere in between.
Y entre esas escalas.
So what we're mostly going to be talking today is HOMEGRID, our residential batteries.
Vamos a estar hablando de las baterías residenciales mayormente hoy.
So our company, the HOMEGRID, has been around for about 1.5 years, but our leadership has been in lithium iron phosphate for 20 years. So the engineers behind this, the people that form the brand, have actually been working in battery factories, designing battery factories in Asia for about 20 to 25 years.
Los ingenieros que que comenzaron la compañía llevan trabajando con tecnología de litio de entre 20 a unos 25 años ya.
Yeah.
La compañía es joven, pero los ingenieros tienen mucha experiencia en esta tecnología.
Yeah. So I'm going to show you a few of our products, especially with a couple of the products that we have. We are certainly the best battery, the best solar battery in the world right now.
Están confiados que su producto es de los mejores productos de baterías solares en el mercado ahora mismo.
So the compact series is pretty similar to other batteries that are on the market. It's 5 kilowatt hours, and we can output 5 kilowatts continuously from this battery.
Esta es parecida a muchas de las otras baterías que hay en el mercado ahora mismo. Es 5 kilovatios hora y puede emitir unos 5 kilovatios continuos de capacidad.
Yeah. So this is something that we see installed in small homes, RVs, and apartment complexes, like multifamily buildings.
Orientada hacia casas pequeñas, RVs, que son casas móviles, y compañías pequeñas también.
And we can do up to 15 of these in parallel.
Hasta 15 en paralelo. ¿Ayuda algo que estemos traduciendo?
Está bien, va bien.
Si no, yo pues me callo y lo dejo que siga. Como usted prefiera.
No, estamos transmitiendo.
Ah, ok. Disculpa. Seguimos.
So you can see what these look like. It's very simple. It mounts on the wall. So this product is just something that people ask for. It's not our most popular, but people do like using this.
Es algo sencillo, se monta en la pared. No es algo, ¿verdad? No es su mejor producto, pero es algo que la gente pues pedía. Pues es lo más que se parecía a las otras baterías que están en el mercado.
For installs, is everyone here using Solarc,
Todo
Schneider?
el mundo aquí está usando Solar, Schneider, algún otro equipo que estén trabajando aquí.
Any other inverters?
Outback,
No?
Sony Island. Sony Island.
Okay. So all of our batteries have close communications with Solarc, the Schneider Gateway, and SMA, Sunny Island. So we have communications.
Las baterías tienen comunicación cerrada con los Solar, con los Sony Island y con Schneider.
¿Son de 6? ¿Ha
¿Perdón?
salido de 6?
Sí, DC only, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
DC batteries only. For our larger batteries, the big containers, we have inverters in them already. So those output high voltage AC power from the big ones.
Así que los contenedores grandes, que son, ¿verdad?, unos productos mucho más orientados hacia el mercado industrial, pues sí tienen salida AC.
But these are just DC.
Estas son solamente DC.
So this next product is by far our most popular product. And I'll show you a quick video. Let's see if we can get it load.
Entonces ahora va a introducir el producto más popular de ellos, que vamos a ver un video en breve.
I'll show a quick video. This is how it goes together. So there's a base,
La base,
the batteries,
la batería
and the BMS.
y el BMS.
It's like Legos. So super simple, right? So our number one goal with this product was to provide full home backup. So there's a lot of batteries that their output is very weak, anywhere from 3 kilowatts to maybe 8 or 9 kilowatts. This battery can do up to 15 kilowatts continuous power.
Así que el focus, ¿verdad?, de esta batería es producir un backup para toda la casa. Y por eso, ¿verdad?, comparado con otras baterías que tienen entre 8 y 9 kilos de capacidad, esta batería tiene una capacidad de 15 kilovatios continuos.
Yeah, we can handle a 24 kilowatt surge for 10 seconds as well.
Pico de hasta 24 kilowatts por 10 segundos.
So we wanted to make sure that we could power air conditioning, water pumps, the entire home from one battery. So we don't want the battery to be the limiting factor with these installs.
Maneja todo entre aire acondicionado hasta las bombas de agua. No quieren que eso sea el factor limitante en la instalación de la persona.
Because this is like Legos, each of these white modules is 4.8 kilowatt hours. And we can do 2 to 8 in a single stack. So that gives us a range of 9.6 to 38.4 kilowatt hours in a single stack, single battery.
Cada módulo tiene 4.8 kilovatios hora de capacidad. Se pueden poner entre 2 a 8 módulos por BMS. Así que tenemos un rango entre 9.6 y 38.4 kilovatios hora de capacidad por stack.
Yeah. And so we have the output, a high output, but we also want to have the high capacity. Now, we have both those with the battery. We also wanted to make it really easy to install. So these batteries, and I'm sure multi-batteries can talk to it as well, we had an installer in the US 3 weeks ago who's done a couple installs, and it took him 20 minutes to install a Stack Series battery.
Que una de las metas principales era hacer una batería que fuera fácil de instalar. Que tienen un cliente que ya está experimentado con la batería allá en los Estados Unidos y le toma 20 minutos el proceso de instalación de cada stack. Me dice que personalmente pues nosotros podemos hablar de eso, que sí hemos instalado ya 3 de estos stacks y como él dice, sumamente sencillo, así como se ve, como si fuera un rompecabezas, un Lego.
How's the output, the wiring to the inverter?
So it's just from the BMS here on the side. So that's the other thing, is with the install, it's super fast. They're like Legos, just big blocks, and there's a male and a female connector in between the batteries, so there's no wiring between the batteries. And the BMS on top, on the side, and we'll see it later, just 4-aught cable, positive, negative to the inverter, and then a communication cable to the inverter, and that's it.
No hay cableado entre cada módulo, solamente hay una entrada, positivo y negativo, en el tope del BMS, y cable 4.0 pues es la recomendable en 4.0, 4.0,
el cable de comunicación que se encuentra ahí también, y que cada módulo de batería se interconecta con un conector macho y hembra. Por lo tanto, no hay cableado entre ellos. Simplemente para, como comentó Billy y comentó Jonas, el positivo y negativo que irían hacia el controlador, el inversor, en todo caso.
And if you use Solarc inverters, we ship with a communication cable that's pre-wired to Solarc inverters for communications. So it's super fast.
How far do you recommend to install the inverter from the battery?
We recommend 6 feet or less. You can do 10 feet, but the shorter the better.
Yeah.
So most of our installs we say less than 6 feet. So really easy to install because they're like Legos. You just stack them up. But 2 more benefits from that. One is that if customers want to expand their capacity later, it's very easy to add to it because they only have to purchase a module.
Otro beneficio pues es que es bien fácil subir de capacidad, porque si empezaste con 2 módulos, pues luego lo único que tienes que hacer pues añadirle 2 módulos más y así hasta los 8 módulos pues, de capacidad que tiene cada stack. Eso es un proceso sumamente sencillo.
So we have a lot of customers that start with 2 modules or 3 modules, and later they come back and they buy more, and it takes 20, 30 minutes. You just add it like a Lego brick and turn it back on, and it's good to go. So it's very easy to expand the capacity later and much cheaper for the homeowner because there's no bus bar, there's no more wiring or anything like that. And the third thing is that because they're in parallel, if a module fails, then the rest continue working, and it's very easy to replace. We can do it in their house, you know.
Que comentó él que también es bien fácil de reemplazar. Como pueden imaginar, si uno de los módulos falla, pues es tan fácil como sacar ese módulo, poner uno nuevo y ya está.
What batteries are everybody using here for current installs?
¿Qué tipo de batería están utilizando?
¿Tenía una pregunta?
Oh, sorry.
If a battery fails, does it shows anyway that it failed, or
Mhm.
you have to test it?
So it does. So there's a LCD display.
Okay.
So if a module fails or there's an error like over voltage or over amperage, it'll display it on there and show where it is in the system. And we also send that data to the inverters, like to Solarc, so you can see it on there as well.
Sí, pues, tiene un LCD, ¿verdad? Un display en la batería que si uno de los módulos falla por sobrevoltaje, ¿verdad? Sobrecorriente, temperatura alta, pues eso se va a mostrar en el display y te va a indicar pues que hay un problema con uno de los módulos.
What? Oh, sorry.
If you have two batteries for 2 years,
Mhm.
stop. You want to add 2 more batteries. That has any problem with the life of the battery?
That's a great question. So it's not going to have any problem with the life of the battery, but the warranty does not extend. So we have a 10-year warranty. So if you put, 2 modules and you install it, and then you wait 9 years, those new modules are only warranted for 1 year. So if you add to it, it does not extend the warranty. So, but there's no problem for the health of the battery. So even if you install, let's say, 20 kilowatt hours in the beginning, and you wait 7 years, and those go down to 16 kilowatt hours, it's okay. You can add modules to it. So we have that safety protocol built in to the battery. I'd like to point out too that we have a BMS on top of the main controller on top of the battery. So this.
That's a BMS.
And in each module, we also have BMSs in there as well. So in each module, there's a small BMS that controls the cells of the battery and the voltages there. And the main BMS controls the whole stack and then stacks in parallel.
Internamente cada módulo tiene su propio BMS que controla, ¿verdad?, las celdas dentro del módulo. Pero entonces también tenemos el BMS principal que es el que va a controlar todos los módulos en esa batería.
Mm-hmm. So we can do anywhere from 2 to 8 modules in one stack, and we can do up to 15 stacks in parallel. So we have a lot of commercial locations that are using this in the US as well, because we can reach high capacities for businesses. We can go over 500 kilowatt hours with this battery.
Que aunque es una batería residencial, pues también puede ser orientada a un uso comercial porque tiene la capacidad de, ¿verdad?, conectar en paralelo hasta 15 stacks de 8 módulos, que nos lleva a una capacidad mucho más alta de lo que otras baterías pueden llegar.
So you can see in the beginning, if you have 2 modules, how many kilowatt hours, and the power output is lower because of the size of the battery. So once you use 3 modules, the specs increase, and 4 modules is the maximum with 15 kilowatt continuous and 24 surge.
Entienden la tabla, lo que van a fijarse es que luego de los 4 módulos se mantiene el output de la capacidad en 15 kilovatios hora. Es el máximo que podemos llegar. Antes de eso, pues con 2 módulos tenemos 9.6 kilovatios continuos y 14.4 kilovatios continuos.
So do you mind me asking, what batteries are people using now? Lead acid, like deep cycle batteries?
I'm using the 2 volt.
Sí, ellos están usando, they're using the 2 volt lead acid batteries.
Okay.
¿Qué otro tipo de batería
AGM.
están usando ahora mismo?
AGM 2 volts.
Okay. Is everyone here using those batteries?
Sí, básicamente, basically the market here in Puerto Rico is between lead acid, lithium, and a bit of AGM batteries here and there, sealed AGM batteries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is everyone
Industrial battery.
Exacto. Yeah, industrial batteries is the same as the 2 volt cell batteries. That's the one that we specialize on in multi-batteries on the lead acid department.
Okay.
The big ones we have back there.
Okay.
The industrial batteries.
Yeah. No, and those are awesome batteries. So is everyone familiar with lithium iron phosphate or like the different chemistries? So I'll go into that. So lithium iron phosphate is the formula that we use. So other companies like Tesla, they use like other lithium ions, so nickel, manganese, cobalt, and different formulas that have thermal runaway. They heat up, and their battery capacity drops off quickly over the years. Lithium iron phosphate is much better than that. So the bad thing is it's heavier, which for homes and businesses doesn't matter, right? Weight doesn't matter. But we can get 1.5 to 2 times the lifespan. We get more cycles out of this battery. So even though we warranty for 10 years, we expect it to last for 20, 25 years in somebody's home using it every single day, right? And there's also no thermal runaway. So there's no cooling, there's no fans, there's no maintenance on the battery. It just sits there. You can use it every day for 10 years and we warranty it, but we expect it to last 20 to 25 years. Yeah.
Básicamente la tecnología que usa batería, pues el famoso fosfato de litio y hierro, que verdad es la mejor tecnología ahora mismo en el mercado, nos permite tener más ciclos de vida dentro de la batería. How many cycles do you expect the battery to last? It's my question.
So we warranty 4,000, but we expect it to last like 9,000.
Así que en la garantía, pues unos 4,000 ciclos, pero esperamos una expectativa de vida, ¿verdad? De hasta 9,000 ciclos. Así que,
and we warranty a 100% depth of discharge. So you can use the full capacity of the battery too.
100%.
How does they perform on saline environments?
So here in Puerto Rico, so it is waterproof. So in the US, we have installations outside, but here in Puerto Rico, because of hurricanes and storms, we recommend putting it inside or having an enclosure around it if you put it outside. So for that environment, it's fine. It is waterproof, but because in Puerto Rico with the weather, I'd probably try and put it inside. Because it's one of those things where this is it's an expensive product for a customer. It's like their house or their car. And if you want to take care of it and have it last 30 years, we recommend you put it inside where it's safer, the temperature's better, and that way it lasts for, much longer. Yeah. So it's a great option for you guys. I think it's like 2 different markets, right? We have lead acid and deep cycle, lead acid AGM batteries. And for us as well, we're coming into this market we can power an entire home. You use this every single day to offset your daily usage, and if the grid goes down, you can have your home be off grid at the same time. So it's a daily use, daily benefits.
And you can use that battery off grid?
Mm-hmm. So when we're paired with inverters like Solarc or the Schneider XW Pro, we rely on them for ATS off grid, but it can be used off grid. So we actually have a lot of off grid installations in the U.S. Either like grid tied or fully off grid, like out in the woods. Yeah. So, that's one of the main benefits is that especially with off grid homes, you're looking at powering water pumps, everything in the entire house for days. And so for off grid, usually we recommend our battery, Solarc, and a small generator. So that when the generator gets turned on with a Solarc, we can capture the excess power and put it in the battery and save it for later. So you save money on fuel for your generator too, because we can capture the power in the battery and save it for later and turn the generator off, so you don't use as much fuel.
How fast is the rate of recharge the battery versus discharge?
So it'll depend on what inverter you're using and what, how much solar and things like that. So, and it depends on the size of the battery. So for like our 9.6, the smallest one, 9.6 kilowatt hours, we can charge it at 200 amps. But the Solarc 12K can only do 185 amps. So it would take about an hour and a half to charge that one back up. If you're using multiple Solarcs and you have a full stack of batteries, and we can charge it 2.5 hours if it's at 15 kilowatts charging. So it'll depend on how big the inverter system is and how much solar you have. So, but we can charge very, very quickly.
El ejemplo que dio, ¿verdad? De 8 módulos, por si alguien no entendió, ellos esperan, si tienes 2 solars y un stack de 8 módulos, que en 2 horas y media de carga, pues tengas un 100% de carga en la batería. Para que tengan una idea.
You can also see our temperature range here for charging and discharging. So I think in Puerto Rico, there's no problems with your temperatures here. I don't think you guys are ever getting above like 120 degrees, or below 32, so it's totally fine. This battery is just mounted on the floor. It's just set up on the floor, so it's a great solution. We do have communications with Solarc, Schneider, SMA, and a few other brands like Growatt, Victron. So if you have companies that you work with, inverter companies, we can also get communications with them if they're open to it. One of the big things that I want to mention too is that we've tried really hard to continue innovating. So when people install our battery and they bring suggestions to us for changes, we change it very quickly. So people tell us we need Wi-Fi for battery updates and everything. So later this year we have Wi-Fi modules coming out. We actually have one right here that we can plug into the battery. We had installers say they wanted to make the inverter communications easier, so we put a switch on the side. Now you just click a switch, Solarc or Schneider, super fast. So we want feedback.
Like we live here in Puerto Rico, how about there's an earthquake? It's like an A, right? And it's rapid.
Mm-hmm.
So the battery will stay, or?
So right now we ship it with 2 L brackets that go on the back of the BMS. So these are all very heavy. So lithium iron phosphate is really heavy. So each of those batteries is about 105 pounds. So they sit there on the base. And the top part here on the back, there's a bracket that you can mount to the wall if you want to. And then we've gotten this question a lot actually.
Yeah,
so
that's what's going on now.
yeah. So later this year, we will also be shipping it with a bracket that goes down the side. So I'll show you guys later with the install, but those side caps here, they come off. And on this side, there's on switches. On this side right now, there's nothing. But later this year, on this side, we're going to ship it with a bracket where you can secure everything together. Yeah. But right now, they do ship with 2 L brackets so you can mount the top to the wall as well.
La batería tiene, ¿verdad?, 2 brackets en la parte superior que tienen la opción de engancharla en la pared, y más adelante este año pues van a empezar a tirar las baterías con un bracket que va a ir por la parte izquierda de la batería para permitir mayor seguridad, especialmente aquí, que como dijo el hombre, pues estamos susceptibles a temblores, terremotos.
No vaya a ser que se mueva y se salga y un corte, ya tú sabes.
Y él estaba mencionando que, ¿verdad?, anteriormente, que ellos sí escuchan mucho a los instaladores y los clientes en cuanto a mejoras para la batería. Por ejemplo, la cuestión de los updates para la batería, pues ellos ya tienen un dispositivo de Wi-Fi que le van a integrar para poder hacerlo, ¿verdad?, con la compañía. Del mismo modo, ellos querían como que una programación más sencilla cuando vinieran a hacer Schneider, Outback o Solar. Pues ellos están haciendo una programación que con un switch simplemente lo sube o lo baja, ¿verdad?
Y ya está.
Y ya se programa.
Ya eso está hecho.
Eso está.
Que que cualquier sugerencia, o si no hay comunicación con alguna batería todavía, se le puede hacer la aproximación allá a HOMEGRID, pueden hablarlo y ellos lo toman en consideración para seguir innovando y mejorar el tiempo y la calidad en cuanto a la instalación de la batería con los diferentes sistemas.
Sí, porque entre más fácil haga la programación de la batería, es más fácil para el instalador. A ver, que enchuflaste, tiene un breaker, ejemplo, que diga solar, pues tú subiste ese breaker y la programación automáticamente se actualiza. Que uno no tiene que estar ahí.
Eso ya está en la batería. Hay unos deep switches que son especialmente para la conexión entre la batería y el inversor, la comunicación.
Eso está buenísimo.
Y un deep switch del 1 al 6, y el manual ya te dice qué deep switch tienes que poner para comunicarte con Solar, cuáles tienes que encender para comunicarte con Schneider y así por el estilo. con diferentes tipos de inversores. Tienen una gran variedad de inversores en el manual.
So our goal is, like you're saying, we want to have a good price on the battery, but we also want to save people money on the install, because other batteries, I don't know, I mean, how long does it usually take you guys to install your lead acid batteries?
¿Cuánto les toma más o menos la instalación de las baterías de ácido líquido? ¿Cuánto más o menos?
Yo uso no puedo dar mucho.
2 horas.
Hablando,
Like 2 hours, maybe 1 or 2 hours.
if it's an industrial battery, you have to weld it together, so maybe 2.5 hours tops,
Yeah.
between 1 or 2 hours.
¿Y en AGM cuánto les toma más o menos?
Haciendo cables y cosas.
Bueno,
Depende de la distancia.
You have to take into account that you have to make jumpers, you have
Yeah.
to make the main cables too,
Yeah.
parts, so I bet
It
3
takes-
hours.
Yeah, it takes long.
Yeah.
Hasta 3 horas.
How many AGM batteries they have to do the jumpers and put the batteries from
Yeah,
the
it's
side.
a-
So that's like apparently like the frequent number when
Okay.
we're looking to installments of those kind of batteries.
Let's do 2 hours tops.
So 20 minutes versus 2 hours, it's a great
Yeah.
deal.
It's
It's a significant
And
advance.
the first time you install it, it may take you an hour or two to learn it, but once you know how to do it, it should be less than 30 minutes. Yeah.
La primera vez que le instalan, pues le va a tomar 1 hora, hora y media, lo que le toman como es la instalación, como es el proceso de la batería, pero luego de eso, 30 minutos como máximo. Ya como cuando conozcan la batería, 30 minutos y ya la tienen instalada.
Es como tu equipo nuevo en lo que tú le coges swing. Porque tu equipo nuevo hay que coger el swing, no es que tú fuiste y ya.
This is the bracket that's coming out this summer. This is the one that will be mounted. You can see it goes on the side, and then it's covered, so you can't see it afterward, but that will help secure it as well. So that's kind of some of those things where we get feedback from people, because that actually originally came from California, where they wanted to have these for smaller earthquakes and things like that. Especially if you're using 8 stacks, it's pretty tall. You don't want it to fall over on somebody. So we are coming out with that as well. So that's one thing, like I said, as you use these batteries, if you use them, which I hope you do, if you have feedback for how we can improve it, please let Multi Batteries know. We love working with them, and let us know, and we can make those changes as we go. Does anybody have any questions about the stack series here?
Pregunta.
It's not about specifically, but about disposal.
Mm-hmm.
You handle that.
So that's not something that we handle. There are third-party companies that handle lithium iron phosphate recycling, and there's more companies that are coming into the U.S. But right now, it's not something that we handle. If we have a module fail, right now it's not the cells, it's not the battery. It would be like the BMS or like other electronics in the system. So in those situations, we can bring it back to our warehouse and repair it there. And reuse that for future. But right now, we don't recycle or anything. These cells and these batteries, like lithium iron phosphate is not new. It's been around for about 20, 25 years. So we know these are going to last us 10 to 30 years on the market. And so right now, we don't have to worry about recycling with them, but that is something that we're looking at doing. So our company, HOMEGRID, and I'll show you later our grid box, which is the really big batteries. We were acquired last year by Lithion, a company in the US in Nevada. They're right by Las Vegas. And they have a lot of money. They own a lot of different battery companies that make smaller batteries. And this year, these products will be assembled in Nevada. So right now, we ship everything over. Every lithium-ion battery right now in the world is being shipped over from China and manufactured there. So we're doing the same thing for these products. But this year, assembly will be in the US, in Nevada. And we're actually looking at a cell factory in Texas. So it'll probably be about 2 years before it's done. But we will be fully manufacturing these products in the US in the next 2 years in Texas or Nevada. And at that point, when we have the manufacturing plant, then we will open up for recycling. but it'll probably be about 2 or 3 years for that.
Pero los próximos 2 a 3 años pues están buscando tener una manufacturación completamente de la batería como tal, de los módulos en Nevada, y entre los próximos 2 años, como dijo, pues va a empezar la fabricación. Están mirando una compañía de fabricación de celdas en Texas que están buscando también como un posible manufacturero para baterías en América, en Estados Unidos.
So as a summary, because y'all are used to working with some different battery types, so these are 48 volts, so we're compatible with Solarc and Schneider. So they're already 48 volts, and each of these is 100 amp hours, just as like a translation. So it's 100 amp hours per module and 4.8 kilowatt hours.
100 amperes horas por módulo y a 48 voltios, pues tenemos los 4.8 kilovatios hora por módulo.
Let's see if we can see some of these installations. So most of our installations are with Solarc, but we do have installs with SMA, Victron, and Schneider XW Pro as well. So this is one of our biggest installations where we have 5 or 6 full stacks, and I think 7 or 8 Solarc 12Ks. It was in a massive house. It was crazy. It was like, yeah, I'll never have that kind of money. It was like a $25 million house. It was crazy. But they wanted to have backup for the house in case the power went out. So.
They got a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say. So each of those are the full stacks. So each one is 38.4 kilowatt hours, and there's like 5 or 6 of them there. So, but we're doing the same thing in businesses of that size, or commercial properties that want to make sure they can keep their refrigeration on, because we can handle those loads, right? Because we can output 15 kilowatts continuous. I don't know how familiar you are with other batteries on the market, but some of these specifications are 2 or 3 times what other batteries are on the market right now.
Esta batería, que el output de los 15 kilovatios continuos se va por encima entre 2 a 3 veces lo que puede dar una batería. Si la comparo con una batería de ácido plomo, que me puede dar el 15% de la capacidad de amperes horas de la batería, pues estamos mirando unos 150 amperes, ¿verdad? Versus, ¿verdad? 150 amperes a 48 voltios. Es menos de 2 veces los 15 kilovatios hora que nos da esta batería.
One of the other advantages has been our lead time. So multi-batteries, I know you guys know multi-batteries. Like, we've loved working with them. They're so nice, they're thorough, they take good care of their customers. We've loved working with them. One of the other advantages is our lead time on these products. So a lot of other companies outside of lead acid are having to wait months and months for batteries. You guys may not have the same problem, but right now in our warehouse, if Multi-Batteries places an order with us, we ship it out within 3 days. It doesn't matter what the quantity is, it's 3 days. So we have thousands of modules in our warehouse right now. We keep up on that inventory so that we're never behind. So we have a massive 40,000 square foot warehouse that is just batteries right now. So we can get orders out within 3 days. It takes some time to get it to Puerto Rico, maybe a few weeks, but that's still very, very quick for shipping these batteries out. This is something, if you're familiar with Solarc, we're coming out with this next month. It's called the Integrated Series. So it goes on top of the Stack Series as a cabinet. So it's an additional cost, but it goes on top of the BMS. And you can use the Stack Series and put a Solarc 12K, or when they come out with it, the 15K inside this. And so there's 2 main advantages. One is it looks good. So this is just
another picture of you can see the product inside.
The Solarc inside.
Yeah.
We do. I just don't have it on here because we take this to trade shows and everything, and we have the Solarc in it. But we made sure that it actually was a perfect pairing because the 15K is bigger, but it still fits in here like just perfectly. That's awesome. Yeah, so this is the prototype. So the final version will look like this, where it goes on top of the BMS. but this is what the cabinet will look like. Yep. So it has a door that opens. This one will only be this one will only be indoor rated, just because we have to put the vents there for the solar and rain could go in. But you can see that it will have a bus bar and 4-aught cable to connect to the solar. And you can see here that we have ports for solar and grid and load, so that we can just run it into the side and connect it to the solar. So,
Nice inside the house.
mhm. Yeah, and it makes the install easier because you're not having to run as much conduit, right? Because the solar, I know the solar, one of the big complaints is that it comes off the wall and you have to try and connect the conduit to it, and it's difficult. So with this, now there's no conduit for the battery, and it's much easier to run the solar and grid and load into the back right there. So this is something we're coming out with next month. We're just finalizing it with the Solarc engineers to make sure it's really polished before it comes out. The last product I want to show you is called our power block. So we basically do the same thing as the integrated series, but we prefabricate this. So you can see the power block here. It's an external case, and we're going to work with multi-batteries to get them pricing on this. This is something newer. So we've been installing it. We've been doing testing. Everything looks good. So we can actually fit 4 full stacks, so 153 kilowatt hours inside, and we can mount 3 Solarcs on the outside of the container. So we can do the 12K, we can do the 15K, but we prefabricate this. So it has air conditioning, heating, and we pre-install the Solarcs and the batteries, so there's no need for you guys to do anything. The batteries are already connected, the Solarcs are already in parallel. All you have to do is connect the solar, grid, and load. So this is great. We're seeing this a lot with really big homes in the US and with commercial sites and EV charging as well, because we can put this outside and have a big capacity.
Are you going to prepare those single phase or 3-phase?
So we can do either one. So we can do 1 Solarc, we can do 2, we can do 3. We can even do 2 of these power blocks next to each other and have 6 Solarcs on there if you want to. But we pre-configure it with a DC bus, and we can set up the Solarcs, pre-configure them before you go or before it ships out to you. And we can do 208 volt, 3-phase, or 120, 240. If you need 480 volt, 3-phase, that's where we have our big grid box products as well. Does anybody have any questions about this?
Antes de hacer las preguntas, ¿verdad? Para esto del power block, pues tenemos hasta 4 baterías por cada bloque. El bloque viene con aire acondicionado y calefacción integrada. Hasta 3 solar se pueden montar en él, en el exterior del power block. Viene preconectado, ¿verdad? Todo lo que sería la cablería entre las baterías y los inversores viene preconectada. Y se puede hacer una solución tanto monofásica como trifásica.
Tiene una camita adentro, por si acaso te botas.
So they got a bed inside in case someone throws you out of your house.
Just get in there, sleep.
I feel like living in Japan or something like that. It seems great. You know?
I want to go to Europe. No, you have an inverter.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we were just talking about this yesterday. We were joking around because there's like people that want to use it in really cold climates. And like, yeah, you could use it as like an ice fishing. Like just put it on the ice and sit inside and fish. Yeah. Yeah, so those are our residential products. Does anybody have any questions about any of those? Is the Stack series something that you're interested in? Do you feel like this is going to compete with it? Like, what have been the main complaints from your customers regarding batteries as an option?
¿Cuáles han sido las quejas principales relacionadas a batería entre sus clientes?
Price.
The price, like everybody.
El precio, the price.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I mean, these are going to be a system, like this will be more expensive than lead acid, but this is something that we were talking about on the way over here today, that lead acid systems, You can't use typically 100% of the capacity. You have to replace them every few years. So this kind of goes back, hey, you pay once, right? And this lasts 20 years on your home. You're not having to replace it. There's no maintenance. So even though this will be more expensive than your lead acid setups, it installs much faster and it lasts like 3 to 5 times longer than the current systems. And the capabilities are higher. We can power more things for longer.
Aunque la ambición inicial con este tipo de batería de litio y esta, la HOMEGRID, pues es más alta que una batería de ácido plomo, pues tenemos la ventaja de que puede durar entre 3 a 5 veces más que lo que dura una batería. Estamos hablando entre 4.000 y 9.000 ciclos comparado con 1.600 ciclos. Además de eso, tenemos el famoso 80% de descarga que nos limita en baterías de ácido litio, de ácido plomo, que aquí en esta HOMEGRID tenemos hasta un 100% de descarga garantizado, ¿verdad? Eso está incluido en la garantía. Así que, como él dice, pagas una sola vez, pero pagas por un producto que te va a durar mucho más.
La expectativa está entre 20 y 25 años, ¿verdad? Que eso es lo que ellos esperan.
Hay que recordar que hay que educar al cliente a eso, porque el cliente lo que está buscando es resolver al momento. Uno le explica y a veces pues, se ponen un poquito, ¿sabes? No sé, tanto la inversión. Al principio, pero uno solo dice que son tantos años, pero con todo y eso a veces.
Pero ahí que tienen la ventaja de que pueden empezar, ¿verdad? Con 2 módulos de batería.
Sí,
que
eso
quizá
es
el
ventaja.
precio todavía es un poco más alto que ácido líquido, pero eventualmente pueden seguir creciendo. Y entonces tienen que
Esa
darle,
es la ventaja que tiene.
educar a su cliente de que es una inversión que puede durarle entre 10 a 20 años. No van a tener que en 4 años más, si son baterías de ácido plomo comerciales o AGM, 4 a 6 años, volver de nuevo a hacer una inversión en $4.000, $5.000
Hay una pregunta.
para que tengan el backup. Es cuestión de educar al cliente cómo vamos a ayudarlo.
Hay una pregunta en Facebook Live de Alberto Monroy que dice ¿cuánto tiempo máximo podría pasar para que se pueda escalar y seguir añadiendo módulos? What is the most time that we can go between installing 2 modules now? How much time can pass by until we install more modules to that first 2 modules?
That's a really good question.
We made a similar question.
So there's no limit. The only problem is the warranty. So you can wait 12 years and add modules, but then there's no warranty because we warranty for 10 years or 4,000 cycles. So for the safety and the health of the system, you can add it whenever, it doesn't matter, but the warranty is from the initial installation for 10 years.
Así que no hay límite de tiempo en añadirle más módulos a la misma batería, pero sí se afecta pues la garantía de las nuevas baterías, porque no extendemos, nos vamos a la garantía de los primeros 2 módulos instalados. Así que pues esa sería la única desventaja, pero en cuanto a expectativa de vida, no afecta la expectativa de vida de los primeros 2 módulos ni de los nuevos módulos. Se mantiene igual.
Question. I heard you said something that you can recharge the battery using an emergency generator. It's no problem with that?
So that comes through the Solarc inverter system. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Solarc or if you use them, but yes, we can be charged through the Solarc with a generator input. So that's something that we see, I mean, that's what we recommend for all of our off-grid installations, is that you have a battery, solar, and a generator, because sometimes you may not have sun for days. But the nice thing is that having the battery there improves the efficiency of the generator because we don't have to run it for as long. So you save money on fuel. And a lot of the times we can size the battery system a little bit smaller if we know that there's a generator, because we know we can kick on if it's needed. So it kind of improves the efficiency of the whole system. But the size of the generator will depend on which model Solarc you use and how many.
Así que si tenemos la capacidad de cargar con generador, pero eso viene a través del solar. El solar es el que tiene el puerto de generador para cargar la batería. En sistemas de off-grid, pues como dice él, recomendado instalar un generador por si tenemos 1 o más días sin luz solar, pues tengamos esa opción, que también permite poner una batería más pequeña, porque si sabemos que tenemos un generador, pues podemos irnos con una batería más pequeña y al mismo tiempo pues la carga del generador se hace más eficiente, porque tenemos, o sea, la carga no, sino el uso del generador se hace más eficiente, porque tenemos la batería, que va a ser el principal backup de nuestro sistema.
Mhm.
Darle esta pregunta, mira, ellos tienen un monitor ahí que te indica el estado de salud de esa batería. ¿Cómo él hace el cálculo para eso?
Yeah, he asked about the state of health calculation inside the battery. How is that calculation made?
So it's calculated based off of the initial capacity. So I don't know how complicated you want me to get. So with our...
All the way.
Yeah? So lithium iron phosphate, most batteries on the market, their capacity is measured by voltage. With lithium iron phosphate, there's very small voltage changes for the capacity. So we use Coulomb counting in our battery to measure the capacity. So it's actually how much is being put back and forth. So it's much more accurate than just voltage. So that's one of the things that makes it nice where we have communications with Solarc and Schneider, because our measurement of our battery's capacity is much more accurate than what the inverter can do. So we communicate that data through. So the state of health is actually displayed on the battery. So you'll see when we go out there, it shows the capacity, and then it changes and shows the state of health of the system, which is a percentage. So we know that we start with a certain capacity with 4.8 kilowatt hours per module. So through the Coulomb counting, we track the state of health of the system. So over years, the state of health will go from 100 to 99 to 98, and that way you know what the state of health of the battery is.
La mayoría de las baterías en el mercado, ¿verdad? La medida de los ciclos de carga o la capacidad de la batería se hace a través del voltaje que tiene la batería, ¿verdad? Ahí estamos más por capacidad.
Bueno, en esa parte, el único equipo hasta ahora que, aparte del monitor que él tiene, el único equipo que hace eso es el Sony Island. Y lo hace a través de, él le envía una carga a la batería y de acuerdo al tiempo, él sabe el estado de salud de esa batería, cómo ella va bajando. ¿Sabe que?
He
No
says
sé
that-
si eso es...
He says that the Sony Island has the capacity to measure that it throws a current to the battery, and according to the time that that current takes for it to be accepted in the battery, the Sony Island knows what the state of health of the battery is. This is a similar concept, right?
Yeah, so I mean, ours is definitely going to be more accurate than any of the inverters. And so, but yeah, if we have an inverter that we're working with that we don't have communication with, we can rely on that. But any of the inverters that we have comms with, we communicate that data. But if you want to set it up like a dummy battery with no communication, you can do that too if you want. But yeah, similar concept. So, does everybody, any more questions about the battery capabilities, benefits over like lead acid, AGM, or comparison to any of the other products that are lithium ion?
¿Tienen alguna pregunta en cuanto a la capacidad, los beneficios o cuál podría ser, verdad, la comparación entre esa y ácido líquido u otras baterías que sean de litio, de fosfato? Una pregunta relacionada.
Yo quiero aclarar algo con la pregunta anterior. La medida que toma el equipo es de coulombio, o sea que esa carga eléctrica, ¿verdad?, que es medida en coulombio, el equipo lo mide así, pues él la registra. Así que depende de cuántos coulombios han sido, ¿verdad?, transmitidos a la batería, pues es el cálculo, es un cálculo, ¿verdad?, bastante...
Sí,
straightforward.
eso es imaginario, porque el Sony Island lo que hace es que dice, mira, yo te voy a enviar una carga y de acuerdo a cómo bajar, pues yo sé el estado de salud de esa batería.
Ok.
Aquí es básicamente un cálculo.
Aquí es más por conteo,
Por
exacto.
un cálculo.
Estamos hablando de conteo.
Sí.
Awesome.
¿Alguna otra pregunta? Facebook, ¿alguna
So-
pregunta?
Una
if you guys are cool with it, what we can do is I really want to show off the installation of the battery, and then we can go look at it real quick. So we have an install video. The way that we tried to build our website is to try and be helpful to installers too. So we use our website and the information to train people, but it's also something that you can use our website to show off the product to homeowners or your salesman or your team. So we have promotional videos, we have the product information and install pictures and everything right on a single page in order, so that you can show homeowners the product and the benefits, or you can show your team as well. So one of the videos on here is the installation video for the Stack series. So I'll show you the process, and then we can go look at it. So you place the base. There's just a little sticker that you take off the bottom for the male and female connector. And then there's just 2 Phillips head screws you take out and you lift off the side.
Se quitan los 2 tornillitos de la parte derecha de la batería, se remueve cada cubierta. Importante que cada módulo tiene su sticker negro por la parte de abajo que cubre el conector hembra. Así que tomarlo en cuenta cuando lo vayan a estar instalando, porque si no lo remueven antes, pues se van a encontrar que no va a entrar.
So there's switches on the side. So what this is, there's little dip switches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and on 8. So 1 is at the top, 8 is at the bottom, and we have just little switches that you flip. So you can see how you set 1 through 8. It's very quick.
Estos son los dip switches para cada módulo, del 1 al 8, para identificar de arriba hacia abajo el número del módulo.
So you flip the switches, place the main controller or BMS on top.
BMS, controlador, la parte final.
And then you just take the top and the side off. And so right here you can see the terminals for connecting to the inverter and the communication cable.
Los terminales para conectar la batería y el cable de comunicaciones a mano izquierda.
So right here you can see, and I'll show this to you too.
Hay que sacar la
si las baterías salieron todas bien y se ponen bien, pues yo puedo mejorar eso también ahí. Tienen que sacar esa tapa.
Pero lo que pasa es que en el BMS, si no se saca la tapa superior, no, el lateral no sale.
No sale, sí.
Entonces es necesario sacar esa tapa y luego entonces vas sacando todos los laterales.
Ahora sí.
He was asking why do you have to take the top part before? Why do you have to take the top part? Because if not, the side part doesn't come out of the BMS, right?
Oh yeah, because there's screws on top. Yeah, so you have to take the top off and then the side. And it's also for some of like the waterproofing. So we need the top to like cover the side easily. And the way that they go on, you see there's like little tabs. So it's like a hook that goes on there. So right here, so this address switch is just like the modules, but it's for the stacks. So if you do multiple stacks, that's where on the BMS you can do 1, 2, master and slaves. Here, this is where the first step, we want to detect how many modules are in the system. So you just flip all the switches to up.
En el primer paso queremos detectar el número de módulos que tiene la batería.
And you turn on the BMS and you wait, and it will show you a number of how many modules. So right here, it says 4 modules, so we're good to go. Now the BMS knows there's 4 in the system. So then we turn it off.
The second set of dip switches, are they for
Right here?
one stack?
Mm-hmm.
Second.
Yeah, so the first one will be the master, so the first switch is up. And then just like the modules, each stack gets a new address. So we ship it with bus bars, and we'll see it when we go out there. And that makes routing the 4-aught cable out the back very easy.
Los bus bars vienen con la batería, lo que permite instalar el cable mucho más fácilmente.
We also ship it with 2 4-aught lugs for the battery side. So the only thing that you would need to purchase is the 4-aught cable and 2 lugs for the inverter side.
Los terminales 4.0 que conectan con la batería, esos dos que se ven allí en el cable, vienen con el sistema. Solamente hay que comprar el cable y los dos terminales 4.0 que irían al inversor.
This is the communication cable. So like I said, if you're using Solarc, it's pre-made to Solarc, so you just plug it in. If it's Schneider or SMA or some other brands, you will have to cut it and re-crimp the wire for it.
Cable de comunicación viene preparado para el Solarc.
So you can see here the different wiring diagrams. It's in our install guide too, but it just shows where you'd use for the Cat5 cable. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but each inverter has to be wired differently for the communication cable. So it's a normal Ethernet cable, and you would just have to clip it and put it back in and crimp it. But
if I know that I'm going to use the battery for the Schneider, I'm gonna say, do you guys can you prepare that cable so it comes for Schneider and not for Solar, for example?
Not right now, because yeah, we just have too many different inverters. Like 90% of our installs are with Solarc.
I know.
And so that's something that we'd be happy to work with you guys on. Like maybe if multi-batteries, we could talk about that later. But right now, if you ordered it, you would have to make the cable yourself. But it takes about, I don't know, like three minutes maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, it's super easy. So now that same switch, it says inverter switches. So the first time we flipped them all on and it detected the modules. Now we need to set them to the inverter being used. So this is set to Solarc. Schneider is a different dip switch. And so that's all you do. So this is Solarc. And we have the diagram here for the different, like Schneider Gateway, Growatt, Must, Victron. So it's just different switches.
Los mismos switches que utilizamos para identificar el número de módulos son los que vamos a utilizar luego de reencender la batería para identificar el inverter.
Por aquí una pregunta.
Yo tengo 2 módulos. Puse el 1 y el 2. Cuando instale módulos nuevos, ¿puedo cambiar la secuencia del módulo o no? ¿O tengo que sacar los 2 módulos y poner el nuevo debajo?
No, pones el que está en la parte superior, y entonces haces el cambio de los dip switch, porque la que era 1 y 2 ahora se convierte en 2 y 3. Y la primera que vas a poner, la última, entonces sería la 1.
Ok, sí, porque no
Entonces
sabe
seleccionas, entonces para que el BMS reconozca la cantidad de módulos, entonces tienes que poner todos los dip switch en la parte superior
y
prenderlo para que entonces seleccione, ya no son 2, ahora son 3.
Okay.
Luego de eso entonces apaga y entonces hace la selección del inversor que vas a estar utilizando.
Ok, está bien. Pero mi duda.
So once you set to the inverter, you just turn it back on, make sure we don't have any error codes, good to go, and then we put everything back together. Then you.
Ask you a question. What happens if you have 2 modules at the beginning, then you add 2 more, and after many years you have 1 module that doesn't work? Do you have to take it out, or you can leave it there until you buy a new one?
You could leave it there if you wanted to.
Doesn't make any.
So the rest of the system will continue to work. So if you have 4 modules, so if you have these 4 modules and one fails, the other ones continue to work because it's a parallel bus bar system that's built in throughout the battery. So even if the middle module fails, the system will continue to work.
So you're gonna have to tell the system that one of the modules is not working. It will continue working.
It'll continue working, and it'll tell you error code 20 on the BMS, and it'll tell the Solarc too that one of the modules has failed. Yep.
Si uno de los módulos se daña, el resto de la batería, aunque el módulo esté en el mismo medio, el resto de la batería va a continuar trabajando porque tiene un sistema, ¿verdad?, de conexión en paralelo. Y va a haber un error número 20 que él dice, que es el que te va a decir que uno de los módulos pues, está dañado.
O sea que la batería no se apaga, no se cae.
No se apaga.
Okay.
Te va a dar la indicación de que tienes una condición específicamente, entonces tienes que trabajar con eso. Ya sea remover o ya sea hacer un reset al sistema para ver si es algo leve o es una situación que tengas que reemplazar específicamente en ese módulo en específico.
Y ahí no habría que hacer ningún cambio tampoco en los
No, pero
parámetros.
lo importante es que no se caiga el sistema.
No. No hay que hacer cambios en los ajustes de parámetros y el sistema no se va a caer. El sistema va a seguir operando.
Eso es más importante.
Solo que en este caso, si era 3 módulos, son 300 amperes hora, pues entonces tu reserva va a bajar a 200 amperes. Pero el sistema va a seguir operando y entonces pues lógicamente es cuestión de trabajar con eso.
No es como las de ácido que si nos va una, se colapsó.
No, es un sistema completo en paralelo. O sea, tú tienes todos los módulos, ya sea de 2 a 8 módulos, que en este caso están conectados todos en paralelo. Así que puede fallar uno, el resto va a seguir conectado.
Eso está perfecto.
And it also, like I said, because it's like Legos, for replacement takes 20 minutes.
Las configuraciones uno las hace en el solar de la batería, Enti 42 voltios.
No.
Todo eso ya viene en la configuración.
Ahora mismo, gracias al closed loop que tiene ya cuando tú haces la comunicación, ¿verdad? Esto de los deep switches, vas a ir al inversor y vas a ver que los parámetros ya van a estar cambiados para el número de módulos que tú tienes y incluso pues, el amperaje total del sistema si tienes más de una batería.
Yeah, so there's no setting changes on the Solarc. It's just lithium BMS. You put in 00, and it auto populates all of our values into Solarc.
En el Solarc sería poner BMS de baterías de litio, ¿verdad? Que es el setting que utilizamos. Ponerle el checkmark y ponerle el número 00, que es el número de la batería HOMEGRID. Ya con eso tenemos
Ahí estamos hablando del solar más que de 12 kilos y el de 5 kilos.
No. 5, 8, 12 funciona con todo y con el 15 también va a funcionar. De hecho, hay una situación específicamente. El closed loop lo que hace es evitar una mala configuración en el tema de batería. Aquí no hay posibilidades de error. Una vez que conectas ese closed loop de la batería directo al solar, automáticamente ya la configuración es dada. Puedes intentar cambiar los valores. El solar, luego de unos segundos, va a volver a cambiar a la posición original. ¿Por qué? Porque la programación la domina la batería HOMEGRID.
Eso es verdad.
Y va a seguir las condiciones que HOMEGRID le determinó al solar en cuanto a lo que es configuración. Así que ya lo hicimos. Intentamos hacer algunos ajustes. Realmente vimos que esa comunicación closed loop simplemente mantiene o estandariza esos parámetros de carga y descarga y capacidad. Todo eso ya lo hace esa comunicación.
What size systems are you usually installing for these lead acid, or AGM batteries? Like how many kilowatt hours, how many amp hours for like 48 volt for Solarc?
For Solarc, I use the 627.
627 amp hour battery.
Okay.
Up to 1,069
Okay.
amp hours.
Yeah.
Entre 627 y 1000 amperes hora es la capacidad más común.
Sí, y estos
Esta es más alta que eso. Yo personalmente hasta 1200, 1300 amperes como mucho.
Sí, hasta ahí.
Pretty much up to 65 kilowatt hour is the biggest install
Yeah. Okay.
that we do commonly.
So one good point is, like I said, these are 48 volt, and each of these is 100 amp hours. So if you have somebody that wants 8 modules, but they want to expand in the future, it's better to do 2 stacks of 4. So, because if we have 1 stack of 8, it's full. And if they want to add to it later, they're going to have to do a whole nother installation. So we have a lot of people that do 2 stacks of 4. That way, if they want to expand in the future, they can just buy 2 modules. So if they are in parallel, they need to have the same capacity, so the same number of modules. So you can't do 1 stack of 2 and 1 of 5 next to each other. They have to be the same number of modules.
Si tenemos varios stacks, pues tienen que ser del mismo número de módulos. No podemos instalar un stack de 2 módulos con un stack de 4 módulos. Eso no es posible. Si tenemos pues, ese caso, pues serían 6 módulos totales. Instalaríamos 3 módulos por stack para equiparar la capacidad de la batería.
And the last point is for the warranty. It's a 10-year warranty, up to 4,000 cycles. So you can use this every day, 100% depth of discharge. And we guarantee a 60% state of health at the end of that. One big point is that if we thought the battery was only going to last 10 years, we wouldn't warranty it for 10 years. So we expect this system to last 20. So that's like the testing that we do on these systems, we typically get around 8,000 to 9,000 cycles out of them before they drop to 60% state of health. But they continue working, right?
So. La famosa garantía de 10 años hasta 4,000 ciclos. Y ellos garantizan que en ese periodo, cuando se cumpla ese periodo, la batería va a tener mínimo, sería máximo mínimo un 60% de estado de salud. Que muy buena garantía. Do you guys have extended warranties?
No. We don't.
Hasta ahora no tenemos garantía extendida opcional. Pero como dijo ahorita él, si ellos pensaran que la batería iba a durar 10 años, no la hubiesen garantizado por 10 años. Inclusive dicen 4,000 ciclos y ellos le han logrado sacar de 8,000 a 9,000 ciclos antes de que la batería baje de ese 60% de estado de salud.
Does anybody do any 480 volt, 3-phase, anything bigger like that? Okay.
We do it
Well,
UPS systems.
You do it for UPS systems? Okay. We can hold off on that later, but we do have larger products that are in shipping containers, so 8-foot, 10-foot, and 20-foot shipping containers. And their batteries that output 480 volt 3-phase. So if you do find yourself working with any larger projects like that, we do also have batteries to accommodate those projects. We also have a really basic sizing tool up on the website. You guys are more than welcome to use it. If you take the worst month of kilowatt hours, say 2,000, we give some general recommendations on sizing. The partial offset is usually around what people are using. So our 4-stack battery, the 19.2, is the most common size that we have put on people's homes. But you can also use this. So if they're wanting to get closer to off-grid, and this is how many kilowatt hours they use a month, they may want a 44 kilowatt hour battery. Things like so. These are just some examples that you can use.
That's what, 2,000 a month?
So 2,000 kilowatt hours a month, and you try to use the worst month. So you don't. I mean, I'm sure here in Puerto Rico, you guys probably have a pretty level bill, right? Do you have worse months?
There are worse months than others.
Okay.
Especially in
It's
the
like
summer
6
season.
months?
Yeah.
6 months good? 6 regular?
En verano yo entiendo que es cuando más el bill de luz sube, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Esta herramienta
Tenemos
de,
6 meses buenos y 6 meses malos.
lo que dice la herramienta de, ¿verdad? De
De
calcular
calcular.
o de calcular el tamaño de la batería, pues tú vas a introducir en donde dice kilowatt hora, ¿verdad? Por mes, vas a coger el peor mes. Si tu peor mes tiene 5,000 kilovatios hora, pues ahí va y te va a dar el tamaño
De la
estimado
batería,
de la
sí.
batería que necesitas.
Bajo 3 posibles condiciones. Tienes off-grid, tienes un partial offset y tienes emergency backup, o sea que tienes varias opciones, no te tienes que ir con la capacidad más grande, así que te da un range de qué capacidad es saludable o útil bajo la aplicación que el cliente realmente la va a usar.
Yeah, so this is a good standard. The main thing is, like I said, you want to use one of their worst months, because if we use a low month and then we tell them they're going to be off grid, and then July or August comes and they're using more power, we don't want to mess people up. So one of the biggest things that we've tried to do is under promise and over deliver to people. So we have turned away customers because they ask us to back up their entire house with a 10 kilowatt hour battery, and we say we can't do that. That's not going to work for what you want. So these are some general recommendations. You guys want to take a break, and then I can come show you the. Actually, we can go take a look at the battery if you want. That's about it for me, unless you guys have any questions about the company, other batteries, any of the products.
¿Alguna otra duda o pregunta? Estamos bien por ahora.
And for the compact series, this is a popular product. Like we do have some people purchasing this pretty regularly. If you use more than two, you should probably use the stack series. So the stack series starts at 9.6 kilowatt hours. You can put a lot of these in parallel, and they're a great product. But once you use more than one or two, it's better to use the stack series because it's so easy to expand later. So, awesome.
La batería compacta que está bien utilizar una o dos, ¿verdad? En paralelo, pero ya cuando vas por encima de dos baterías compactas, pues es recomendable movernos a la serie Stack, que es mucho más fácil de expandir, ¿verdad? Que esta batería que va en la pared.
Yep. Awesome. Do you guys want to go take a look at the battery and kind of see what it looks like?
Yeah, tomamos la batería.
Is it okay if I...
Yeah.
Are we bringing it with us?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Thank you.
Sí, correcto.
So this is the stack series. So it's a 19.2 kilowatt hour battery. So we've taken the top cover off and the side cover so that you can see it. I'll see if I can get in. We've got the BMS off now. So you can see the connections underneath for the BMS. So on each of the modules, it looks just like that. So they just stack. So the communication, the parallel bus bar is all built into the battery. You got it? So each of these modules, the BMS is pretty light. It's easy. Each of these modules weighs about 100 pounds. So they're pretty heavy. So we can put it back on there. I just wanted to show everyone real quick. Other way. You got that side? Yep. Okay. So I do want to show you, we already have the modules on. So we're going to set the switches. Everyone can see here. The switches all go up, and the address is 1. Then we turn it on.
Todos los switches rojos hacia arriba y en los del medio, que es el address, el primero hacia arriba. Y se enciende la batería.
And so you'll see it takes just a second, but it will detect the number of modules in the system.
Se tarda un poco, pero nos va a decir cuántos módulos hay en el sistema.
So it displays 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. We're good to go.
There is a particular setting in order to do the stacking, or you just have to put it?
So when you install the battery, you'll just stack the modules and you remove the side covers. there's a little address switch that looks just like this inside here. And you set 1, 2, 3, 4 through 8. So this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you turn them on, and that's it. So then we put the BMS on. We set it to this mode, detect the number. So 4, we're good. And then we set it to Solarc, or whichever inverter you're using. And you'll turn it off, turn it back on. Make sure there's no error codes. We're good to go. And that's it. So the 4-aught cable connects here to the bus bars. That's it. It's super easy. It's like Legos. You just, I don't know. I think it's seriously like we've had installers that it takes them 10, 15 minutes. But it's good to say that it's 30 minutes or less to install the battery. So it's super fast.
So if you do parallel stacking, how the dip switches go?
Yeah, so if you do parallel stacking, the first one, the master, will be 1. The second stack, you just change the switch here, will be 2, and so on. So we have a guide on our install. You just flip the switches, and that's how you do it.
Like
and
a binary code. Binary code.
What are they called?
It's like a binary code, you know.
Yeah. So like
the first one, and
two.
that means that there is one, one stack. The second one, 2 stack.
Yeah.
Then the first and the second one,
yes.
3
Yep.
stack.
Exactly. So you'll set it up that way, and then you have a link A and a link B port on the side. So it's a normal Ethernet cable, Cat5. There's no wiring or anything. So link A on stack 1 to link B on stack 2, and then link A on stack 2 to B on stack 3. So it's just a normal cable that connects them. And you do the same process. You flip these switches, and it will detect how many stacks, and then you're good to go. So the only connection to the inverter is going to be from the master battery to the master inverter. Yeah, that's awesome. So does anybody have any questions about the install? It's super easy. You just stack some Legos, some big old heavy Legos. You flip a couple switches, and then you connect some cables, and you're done.
And on the second stack, the modules are plugged the same way as the master, correct?
So basically, you install each stack as its own. So the modules doesn't matter. So it's the same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the BMS is 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. And only the master BMS will communicate with the Solarc. So this is the 15K. So we'll plug right into their CAN bus right here. It's labeled battery. It just plugs right in to ours, CAN to CAN, and it's done. Yep, so on the Solarc, when you set it up, we're battery protocol 00, and it auto-populates the values that we need. Yep. Does anybody want to take a look at you're welcome to take a look, but that's pretty much it. It's super simple. It's basically, we have really high output, high capacity, super fast install. It's like Legos, it's modular. And we like to think that we look good while we do it. It's a good looking battery. It's something which is a good point though, especially if you're having to weld batteries together. This is something that customers say, it's okay if this is inside my house or inside my garage or inside somewhere else because it looks good. So that's a big advantage for us.
I have a question here from Edwin J. Negron. He says, to connect two different stacks, does it need a bus bar or does it have an interconnection?
It does need an external bus. So if you have multiple stacks, you will need a bus bar to connect these two that go to the Solarc. Yeah. And it just needs to be rated to the amperage that the Solarc breaker can handle. So if it's one Solarc 12K, like over here, they just have a 250 amp breaker. So you need a 250 amp rated, bus bar that you can use for all the batteries going to it. Yep. But you can see the sides here. They just have little tabs that they sit on, and it goes on. Like that. So there are usually a couple screws that go here, but then I can show you. This is just to help with the weatherproofing. Awesome. And so that's what, this is our most common size. This is what most homes tend to use with us. But this is exactly what it looks like in the house.
The battery has the capacity, you know, we need to do an adjustment in the battery BMS. So we have the way that we can do it.
Do you mean if you like add modules later?
Or some batteries, you know, we can interact with the parameters, maybe spike windows when we have inductive loads.
So we can get you the EMS tools. There's only certain things that you can change within the batteries because we don't want a lot of the parameters changed. If you're operating with Solarc and like Schneider, SMA, things like that, we do communicate some of those cutoffs and that safety information to them. Is there something specifically that you usually change with the battery parameters? Like,
yeah, maybe depending the loads.
Yeah.
You know, I have cases where the loads were inductive.
Yeah.
So the spikes, the kickoff spikes.
I think it would be really hard. So this battery has a 24 kilowatt surge for 10 seconds. So I mean,
10 kilowatt for 10 seconds.
Yeah, so 15 kilowatts continuous and a 24 kilowatt surge for 10 seconds. So I think it'd be pretty hard to, you'd probably flip a breaker in the Solarc before the battery.
And you also mentioned that we can do a closed loop with Schneider Electric?
With the gateway.
With
Yeah.
the gateway?
Yeah.
And will be the same like Fortress, like for example? Or how will be the closed loop connection with Schneider?
Go from
Yeah.
the battery to the gateway.
Mhm.
Of the Schneider.
Yeah, I know, but
You just have to cut the cable. We have a
putting
guide.
the cable and putting the two cables to the same way we do.
Yep.
Okay.
It's the exact same way.
Hay una guía en el manual que te va a decir cómo vas a preparar el cable de comunicación.
Okay.
Lo preparas, se viene la ponchadora esta que es para ponchar el plugcito del cable de Ethernet. Y entonces lo preparas como te dice el equipo. Y entonces ese cable es el que vas a utilizar, el que tú vas a preparar, es el que vas a utilizar para conectar el gateway con la batería. Preguntan nuevamente que si se puede utilizar con otros inversores. Sí se puede utilizar con otros inversores. Tiene closed loop con ciertos inversores, ¿verdad? Específicos. Entre esos lo que estamos hablando. Obviamente Solar, Schneider y otros que están incluidos en el manual. Sí funciona con otros inversores, inclusive el Schneider sin gateway funciona, pero en open loop. Entonces no tenemos esa garantía de que estamos usando los parámetros correctos para la batería.
Que están comunicando, no establecieron una comunicación entre los dos.
Es mucho más eficiente, sí.
Yeah. So our battery specs, our goal was to make sure that the battery is never the bottleneck. So most people are pairing, sometimes we even have people pairing two 12Ks with one of our batteries because we can do 15 kilowatts continuous power. So with the smaller sizes, with the 9.6, so just using two of them, it caps it at 9.6 kilowatts continuous with a 12 kilowatt surge. And as you get larger to this size, it increases to 15 and 24. But I mean, 24 from the battery to the inverter, that's a 500 amp surge for 10 seconds, which is, I mean,
No, that's nice.
yeah. So that was our goal. We want to handle air conditioners, water pumps, high inductive loads, air compressors, things like that. We can do that from the battery. So now it really just most of the time comes down to sizing the Solarc and the inverters properly. Yeah, to handle the loads. Awesome. That's it. It's pretty simple. It's a great system, and it's not something like we have a lot of clients where we don't ask to only use our product. Other batteries have great markets. They have their place for emergency backup or for certain applications where people are trying to save a lot of money, you know. But we do think it's an excellent option for people that want to use the battery every day and they want something that's going to last 20 years instead of maybe 4 or 5 years, right? And I think we come in at a very, very good price point relative to other batteries that are lithium ion. And so we're basically charging the same price as other batteries for 2 to 3 times the specifications and a much easier install. Awesome.
I'm just gonna answer a question again. Otra vez. No hay tiempo límite para añadir módulos a la batería si nos limitamos a la garantía de los primeros módulos que fueron instalados. Por ejemplo, si instalaste 2 módulos, luego instalas 2 módulos más, los primeros 2 módulos ya tienen 5 años, en los 4 módulos te restan 5 años de garantía. Así que la única desventaja pues sería un límite en la garantía de los nuevos módulos. That's it.
Awesome.
I may misunderstand that because you purchase 2 modules, 2 new modules, and 5 years after that, the new module should have the 10 years warranty also.
No, it just goes from the initial installation. Because having that battery in the old BMS, like, it's going to cause those new modules to cycle less. So the warranty is only it's per stack from the initial installation. So if you have one full stack and you add a second stack, that one has now 10 years.
10 years warranty.
But if you add something to the stack that's already installed, it's 10 years from the initial installation.
Let me ask you something. If you have 2 stacks, like with 2 modules in each one, and then you want to buy 4 new modules, can you remove those 2 to the other 4 stack module and then the new one?
No, that's a good question. What I would recommend doing is starting with 1 stack of 4, and then when they want more later, if they want a new warranty on it, do 1 more stack of 4. So it's related to like the BMS as well. So because you have 2 BMSs there initially, we don't want to warranty that old BMS for another 10 years. So, yeah. So if they do want to expand later on by that much, I would recommend doing 1 stack of 4. And if they wait 8 years, just do another stack of 4. Because one thing that we're seeing is that lithium iron phosphate, it's not new. It's been around for 20 years, but the price, it continues dropping. So over the last 4 or 5 years, it's gotten to a price point where now we're competitive in the market, right? So we're going to see that, especially as we continue bringing manufacturing back to the US over the next 3-5 years. The price of this is just going to continue to drop. So expanding in the future will be cheaper, basically. Yeah.
I thought it was the batteries that's the problem, not the BMS.
It's just both. It's that if we have like a BMS component that's there that's been having pass through for the last 8 years, we don't want to end up warranting that for like 20 years basically. So it just kind of comes back to one of those things where it's like your fridge or your dryer. We warranty it for 10 years, but it's going to last a lot longer. But yeah, it's the entire system. So any components that were initially installed, it's 10 years. Yeah, so if they wanted a brand new warranty, they would have to do a second stack. Yep. So.
Any more questions? ¿Alguna pregunta? ¿Inquietud por el momento?
Yeah, these have been really good questions. These are awesome.
Warranty. The warranty in relation to the battery, it's from 2 modules towards upgrading. It only covers that, or it can cover it from 1 module.
No, importante. Let me answer that. No se puede instalar un módulo. Esta batería solamente funciona de 2 módulos hacia arriba. So I think that answers the question that if the warranty is capable for only 1 module, but you can't install 1 module, you have to install 2.
Yeah, so if you you have to install 2 minimum. If you have 2 modules and 1 fails, it will continue to work at a greatly decreased output, you know, because it's just one module. But for installation, you have to have at least 2 for 9.6, which is, I think nowadays is pretty small system. We do have a lot of people starting with 9.6 and expanding later. But if you want less than 9.6, we have our compact series, which is 5 as well. Yep. These are freaking awesome questions. No, they're like really good. Like, I feel like I've done a lot of presentations where nobody asked any questions, so this is good.
Para propósito de garantía, ¿aplica solo a los módulos o al BMS también?
For warranty purposes, it applies to both the modules and the BMS.
Mm-hmm.
En el caso de que sea necesario el tema de la garantía del BMS, ¿cómo fábrica proyecta en este caso esa reparación? ¿Sería reemplazo o sería reparación localmente?
If it would be necessary, applying the warranty to the BMS, do you guys cover reparation of the BMS, or do you guys ship a new BMS and that's it?
Would it be a replacement?
So right now it would be a replacement. Moving forward, especially here in Puerto Rico, we're working to see if we can establish services here, potentially through multi-batteries as well.
Yeah, they should have here in case something happens.
Yeah. So right now it would be a replacement where we would cover the product entirely. So we've had one module fail. It was an installer's fault with the way he messed it up. But in that case, he left the battery there, like I think like we'd mentioned earlier. So he left it there. We mailed him a new one. He replaced it, and we paid to have the old one mailed back to us. Okay. So in Puerto Rico right now, it would be a replacement.
You should have it in battery.
I know. Yes. You got them like selling for you guys. Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah.
That's the plan. So for the next, it'll probably be for like the next 2 months. It would just be a replacement if something happened. But after that, we plan on having services down here.
Okay.
We can continue the questions in the conference. We put something to grab and eat.
Yeah.
Other conference.